Hey y'all, welcome to One-on-One with Gabe Wrench. This is Crosspolitic. Thank you for joining us. I got a couple announcements on future dates that you need to lock into your calendar. March 27th, 28th, me and my wife show, Water Break. We're going to be doing a health summit here in Moscow, March 27th, 28th. Can't wait to talk to you guys about that and give you guys more information on that. But put the dates on your calendar. Hopefully in January, we'll have the landing page up for March 27th, 28th. For Health Summit. Very excited. And then secondly, Business Network has its first national conference, April 7th, 8th, and 9th in Dallas. Business Makers Network, businessmakers.network. Again, more information will be coming out in January, but I wanted you to lock those on your calendars for April 7th, 8th, and 9th. I'm very excited for the guest I have coming on our show today, Dr. Mark Christian. Dr. Mark Christian is the founder of the Global Faith Institute. He offers one of the most unique perspectives on Islam in America today. Raised in Cairo as a physician and a former imam, he has deep family ties to the Muslim Brotherhood and service in the Egyptian military. His book, The Apostate, My Search for Truth, details how he later left Islam after a rigorous study and embracing of Christ. He now educates Americans on political Islam, defends its victims, and champions the national constitutional Christian Foundations of America. Dr. Christian, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Well, thank you very much for having me. It's an honor to be with you today and your listeners and your viewers.
Yes, sir. Thank you. And I just want to start off, basically, we're going to go through some of the chapters in your book, some specific chapters, but I just want to maybe just start off, giving you some time to kind of talk about your growing up in the Islam faith and then converting to Christianity. And, you got a good 8 minutes here. I'd love for you to kind of give us your context in your transition into becoming a Christian.
So just like the childhood or the start, I kind of grew up in Cairo, Egypt, and I have a different circumstances growing up, because of my kind of nature of my father and my family from my father's side and both sides. And I try to, put this and use this in the book in a way to explain the normal and the abnormal kind of upbringing that I had growing up. So I grew up in a very religious family. My father is a physician who served in the Egyptian military as a high-ranking officer. His experience with the wars of 67, 73, and so forth. I talked about him joining the Muslim Brotherhood, him and his brother from their early stages in life. I also talked about, the ties of the Muslim Brotherhood organization into my family members.
Real quick,
through
Dr.
my great uncle and so forth.
Dr. Christian, real quick. Why would someone who's a Muslim want to join the Muslim Brotherhood? What's the why there?
That's a great question, actually, and I would love people to understand that the Muslim Brotherhood is a huge, big platform, and their kind of attractiveness is a couple of things. It encourages people into faith, and also at the same time help people wherever they are to better their lives. So for my father and my uncle growing up in a very humble beginnings, even though they have an extended family that are wealthy, and one of them were kind of one of the co-founder of the Muslim Brotherhood, but they themselves had a lot of ambitions, but they could not reach it. So they did join the Muslim Brotherhood so they can help them out in their career, and end up my dad becoming a very successful physician, my uncle a very successful lawyer, and so forth. So the Muslim Brotherhood is a kind of a community based. It's modeled after different kind of old organizations, and the way they do is they help people to, and then later on they ask those people to give them funds and to help them as well.
I
Make
see.
sense?
Yes, sir. And so let's get back to your testimony. So you grew up in a very religious, Islamic religious family, obviously connected to the Muslim Brotherhood, obviously.
But the Muslim Brotherhood is not like a different kind of Islam. Just is something that I face all the time over here. Muslim Brotherhood is just a Muslim organization. It's just a regular Islamic teachings. Some people want to make them different, but they're not. Okay. And I want to share something very important actually in my life. Even when I was a very young, I had an experience where I did something that is not acceptable in Islam, which is going to a movie theater even without my own decision. It's my mother taking me over there behind my dad's side, and I shared this kind of a story. And I came back, and when I came back home, my father learned about that stuff, and I got punished big time. And that kind of a trajectory that started my own journey with Islam. First of all, I get introduced to the nature of God in Islam and Allah in a very vivid way, which is He's a very judgmental God who out there to get you, that you have to be submissive, you have to be trying to gain favor with Him all the time, working very hard with no assurance of acceptance and no assurance of heaven, and nothing other than that. You should just to work out. It's kind of an enslavement
Uh-huh.
to a master that you worked hard all your life to
Yeah.
please in any shape or form you
Yeah.
can, with no assurance that you will ever succeed.
Yeah. And so you grew up in Egypt. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yep. Cairo. And how in Egypt, how in Cairo or in that area did you start to learn about Christianity?
Oh, I did not actually. Uh, Even though there is a minority Christian in Egypt, but that was kind of forbidden. You know, there is no chance you can learn about Christianity from a Muslim background. You know, everything is locked behind doors in churches. They are not allowed to. It is illegal for a Christian to share his faith.
Yeah.
So later on in life, when I was very curious about Christianity, I had to go to websites and online when that stuff was very primitive. I have to keep in mind, I was doing that before the time even YouTube existed or Google search existed. So that's not like a long time ago.
Wow.
Those platforms is relatively new for people in my age,
Yeah.
but yeah, for the younger generation, they cannot imagine that there was a time without YouTube. But this is the time that I start looking for Christianity.
And so back then, before Google search, you basically had to know the specific websites.
You yeah, well, there was a couple of you do Yahoo search
Yeah.
and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And there was a different, like there was chatting rooms that
Oh
was
yeah.
very
Oh
active.
yeah.
I don't know, do you know that? Are you from that age?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I was born
You
in '79, so
Oh, so you're very close.
yeah.
During that time, you go chat rooms and stuff like that and figure some stuff. But here is what the trick I want to highlight actually. See, it is illegal to look into the things like that in Egypt, and
Mhm.
the internet was monitored. So when I was looking for things, I went to like the website for the Vatican, for example. It was a primitive website, and I thought the Vatican, this is where Christianity is. So I was doing that because I thought if anybody catch me looking at the website like a Christian website. I
Yeah.
like traveling. I was kind of very privileged kind of a kid at that time, and I traveled. And
Yeah.
I thought if anybody catch me, I would say, "Hey, I was just looking to visit for a
Yeah.
trip for fun. I was not looking for Christianity per se."
Yeah. Interesting. And
Yeah.
so you started finding out, obviously at some point you started doubting that the Muslim God was the true God. And then in those doubts you started thinking, well, maybe the Christian God's the real God. How old were you when that
It
kind of thought
wasn't.
process?
Yeah, it wasn't. It wasn't. I apologize. It wasn't like that actually. I started digging into. So now I am about to start medical school. I'm a very faithful Muslim kid,
Yeah.
and I thought that what, I'm gonna take Islam to the world. I thought that, hey, you know what, I am gonna follow the steps of my father and give be better than him because he's a preacher and writing books about Islam, preaching and building schools for Islam. I thought I'm gonna be a better preacher than him. I'm gonna actually try to tell people about Islam and convert the Christians and those who do not about Islam. So when God ordained some time in my life before medical school as a gap year or so,
Mhm.
I thought that I'm going to invest that time into searching into history and theology to have kind of an apologetic, if that makes sense for
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
It wasn't apologetic, but it was like very similar to that, where I'm going to be, equip myself with the truth about Islam, history and theology and so forth,
Mhm.
so I can reach others with the Christianity. But when I digged into history and theology, this is when I start finding the problems with Islam. And one of the biggest things actually is that I wanted to find some kind of highlight points to prove that Muhammad is the prophet, that he is the final of the prophets, that he is who he claims to be.
Yeah.
And when I digged into that, I found that he himself failed miserably to prove himself as a prophet.
Yeah.
And this is from Islamic teachings. It's not from outside resources. This is from the Quran itself. When Muhammad was confronted by the Christians, he had nothing to prove other than I will swear to you, I'm telling you the truth, and there is nothing that he did. And this is when I start having problems with my own religion.
Yeah, and so you dedicate a couple chapters to that.
Yes.
What were, in the second, what, so what were some more of those cracks that started to form in your view of, the Quran?
When the cracks
What were
start.
what were some what were some more problems that you discovered with the Quran?
The biggest thing is Muhammad is not legitimate. Is a false prophet. Basically, this is
okay.
what it is. To answer the question, is Muhammad is really a prophet? The Islam says, you have to go to the Quran to prove that. So how do I know that the Quran is a legitimate book? And then when it says you have to believe Muhammad, well, it's going into a circle that has no end and it's not having an outside resources. So that's a serious problem. Then I had a question: if Muhammad was illegitimate and he failed to prove himself, and I challenge people and listeners to find out Muhammad did not do any miracles, did nothing actually.
Yeah.
Okay. So he did not have any chance to prove. So how did Islam? I said, I must be crazy because, I'm this guy over here in this time and age looking back and says, for 1400 years, people believed in Muhammad and believed in Islam, and you have 1.6 billion people. Why am I the only one who's finding that out?
Mm-hmm.
Then how did Islam expand? How did Islam actually reach and made 1.6 billion people to believe? And then I found out it has nothing to do whatsoever with the legitimacy of Muhammad. It was first the conquest of Islam, and then the forces of it, and the brainwashing from the young age, like I was brainwashed from a young age, and then the circle keeps going and on, going and going and going. That was the answer.
How do you? So you kind of talk about your experience from being brainwashed, just from being a younger kid and just kind of growing up in this culture of Muslim life. How does some modern 35-year-old person convert to Muslim? Some Western American convert to to the Quran. What are they thinking? What do you think's attracting them to the Muslim faith?
The culture, that's a question I thought in the very beginning. This is something that I learned later on when I came to the United States, and I started finding that Islam is a fastest growing religion and there is a lot of people converting and so forth. And I was very curious about why, and I start meeting people who share with me, my son, my daughter and stuff. And when I go to YouTube and I listen and I watch some of those, or even firsthand meet somebody, it's all based on culture things, based on lies, based on concepts that is not true. But I'm going to tell you the truth. I don't think people converting to Islam because of the legitimacy of Islam, they actually have so much problems with Christianity or the culture that they grow up from. And then it is the problem of the church itself that is not making people understand what they believe in, and to make the distinct belief between what Islam is and Christianity is. And it is our own problem as Christians, is not trying to strengthen our own faith and strengthen our generations and have a real discussions. On the other side, Muslims come in with, you have to give it to Muslims, and I was one of them, the conviction of the belief. The strength of the belief, like you have to keep in mind, so what Muslims do is something that many Christians are lacking to do whatsoever. There is no way you will find this kind of conviction, this line. Muslims carry their own faith from their own countries and come over here and try to be convicted. This kind of a sense of conviction and sense of obedience to Allah is intimidating. That's a fact.
Yeah. And so let's fast forward a little bit. You started having doubts about the Muslim ideology, the Muslim.
Can I tell you on something?
Please.
One more thing.
Please.
One thing about Islam that is also attractive, it caters to the human nature. What I mean by that is something very interesting. You know, as humans in general, we are tuned to the fact that if you work hard for something, then you get it. Like if you want to be a doctor, you study hard, you go to medical school, and so forth.
Yeah.
If you wanna, a good husband, you work hard at it. If you're gonna be a good wife, you do the same.
Yeah.
Everything you work hard for it, then you get it.
Yeah.
And Islam is based on that. It's works. It's working hard towards heaven. It's working hard
Yeah.
toward making yourself in a better person. In Christianity, it is exactly opposite. It's against the human nature. It's a free gift through the
Yeah.
sacrifice of the Lord Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
And the problem with it, it is absolutely true, because there is no way we can earn our place in heaven. There is nothing we can do. And I don't want to go into theological discussion right now. If you want me, I will explain it. But you know the idea that heaven can be earned by working hard,
That's
that
right.
Islam kind
Yeah.
of pushing, is kind of completely defected. Because here is the simple example I use all the time. Can you, if you have a house and you rent the basement to somebody, can that person at any shape or form work very hard to clean up the basement or clean up the rest of the house or be an amazing tenant? Can he earn his place and so he can later on tell me, give me the deed of the house? There's no chance that will happen, right? He
Right.
has to pay the debt, right?
Right.
So, heaven belongs to God. He owns the deed to the heaven.
That's right.
So there is nothing we can do. There is nothing cleaning we can do, or tiredness, or being very good to earn it. This
Uh-huh.
is the difference between Christianity and Islam. So for people who are looking for an earthly religion that cater to the nature of human beings,
Yeah.
Islam is the answer, which is completely wrong.
I follow you. Very good. And so let's get back to your testimony. When did you become a Christian? What circumstances led to you becoming a Christian?
It was an ongoing process, and seed has been planted in my life. Even in my life as a very strong Muslim, my first seed, or the first seed that was planted in my life, is when I was in third grade in a
Uh-huh.
school that has mixed kids, and was a Christian kid sitting next to me, introduced me about his own Christianity in a classroom. And I go through details of that story in the book.
Yeah.
And I was intimidated by his kind of ease and love, and talking about God of love when I'm talking about God of judgment. So that was the first seed that was planted in my life. And many other seeds has been planted in my life, but I also always that just kind of dismissed those seeds, but they were kind of festering in my heart.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Until I start losing faith in Islam, and that did not make me look into Christianity whatsoever. He was completely kind of don't want to have any relationship with God, and I tried to convince myself that there is no God. But
Right.
then a big incident that took place in my life, which is when I was very vocal about that Islam is not legitimate, Muhammad, and so forth. And actually out of desperation, I was vocal. Then was an attempt on my life in 2003.
Right.
This is, before coming to the United States. And by the grace of God, I was saved. They tried to burn me alive, my own family.
Wow.
So
Wow.
when I survived that, while I was in the ambulance, taken to the hospital, this is when I decided to give my life to Christ. And I didn't know what the meaning of giving your life to Christ or any of that
Yeah.
stuff. All what I did in the back of the ambulance when I was in pain, have burns all over my body, and it was a very dark minute, a moment in my life, and 3 months later on afterwards. But in the ambulance, this is when I decided to make a prayer and says, you know what, I was torn, and I'm
Yeah.
at this point in time I didn't know what to do. So I said this to myself: I will never ever believe in Allah or Islam whatsoever, even if it's going to lead to heaven, and I'm going to follow Jesus because I'm in love with you, Jesus. Even if your ways will lead me to hell, I will follow you until I die.
Yeah.
This is my first commitment to Christ.
Mm-hmm.
When I grow up, I want to work for a woke company, like super woke.
When I grow up,
I want to be hired based on what I look like.
Rather than my skills.
I want to be judged
By my political beliefs.
I want to get promoted.
based on my chromosomes. When I grow up,
I want to be offended
By my coworkers.
and walk around the office,
On eggshells.
and have my words policed.
By HR. Words like
Grandfather.
peanut gallery, long time no see.
no can do.
When I grow up,
I want to be obsessed with emotional safety
And do workplace sensitivity training.
all day long. When I grow up, I want to climb the corporate ladder.
Just by following the crowd.
I want to be a conformist.
I want to weaponize my pronouns. What are pronouns?
It's time to grow up and get back to work. Introducing the #1 woke-free job board in America, redballoon.work.
I don't think it is. It was naive. It was, but
Yeah,
it was
yeah,
legitimate
yeah.
out of my heart and out of the pain
Yeah.
that I was going through.
Uh-huh. And I guess that incident, why were they trying to kill you?
Because I was very vocal and about that Islam is not legitimate, is a false religion, as Muhammad is a false religion.
Uh-huh. Was your family coming along with you in these thoughts?
I don't understand your question.
Was your family, because you were married then and had kids, correct? By that
Yes.
time? Yeah.
Yes.
Was your family also
My
going the same direction with you towards Christ?
kids were babies, so they didn't know much. So my kids grew up in Christian faith. They don't know anything about their background and any of that Islam.
Yeah.
Wife was on the same page, different path, different experience,
Yeah.
but she was encouraging. But the hardship that we faced was always a challenge as well.
Uh-huh. Incredible. And
You're
so
talking about my immediate family. The rest of the family is.
Yeah.
I kept things secret until I actually, out of desperation, started talking to my father, who was my mentor at the same time.
Yeah.
And this is when things start going out of hand.
yeah, you talked about that in your introduction, then you also had a whole other chapter talking about your relationship with your dad.
Yeah, he's a good man, but he's a very strong Muslim, and he tried to kill me. But he's still a good man.
Yeah.
I'm serious.
So he tried to kill you? Was he the one that tried to burn you and your
Yes.
family?
Yeah.
Wow. So you were living in Egypt at the time, is that correct?
Yes.
And then after that, did you have to flee Egypt and get your family out of there?
I stayed in Egypt for a little bit afterwards. You can call it fleeing, but I wasn't. I actually I was after that prayer, I start a journey for seeking Christianity. So this is what was going one way.
Yeah.
But I was timid. I was suffering from some sort of post-traumatic, from the incident itself. So I minded my own business. I was very timid, which is against my nature, to be honest.
Yeah.
And I was I stayed quiet. I put my head down, and I was trying to do whatever it takes. I thought my life is going to be short. I thought that I'm not going to live for long. So I wanted to work extremely hard to provide some kind of security for kids and family, my immediate family, and try to see what is going to happen next. And I was seeking Christianity secretly, like I talked about website and all of that stuff, without creating any chaos. But I every now and then I visit. So an incident that took place is I try to figure out meeting somebody that can tell me face to face about Christianity. I came to the point of, like, I have to find a way to put my hand on a Bible, that because I didn't have a Bible in my hand, actually. It was forbidden to sell it outside of the churches. At that time, there was no apps and stuff like that. There was no iPhones as well. Some people were listening to this says, this guy is kind of coming from the Stone Age, has no cell phones and no YouTube. But there was no Bible. I needed to get baptized very much. There's multiple things, and I couldn't do it. So I was able to go to different churches sometime, sneaking in, but they kicked me out, or they never allow me in, and so forth, in Egypt. Sometimes in England as well, when I went there, afterwards. But I was desperate to get baptized, get the Bible, learn about Christian faith. So this is why I came to the United States on a mission. And my main mission to come to the United States was actually spend a couple of months and go back during those 2 months, I would be baptized, learn about Christianity, get the Bible, get equipped, and then go back and continue working until I die. I thought at that time I was depressed, and I thought that I'm gonna die. You have to keep in mind, my family is prominent. They are very successful in medicine and in life and so forth. So I was not running. I was not running away from a desperate life. I was inside desperate, but it was easy at some point to say, you know what, I'm gonna forget about all of that kind of Islam versus Christianity thing, or even Islam is legitimate or not, just mind my own business, or be a Muslim by name only, like a lot of people are. But the urge for finding my own creator was so big and so strong that it kept moving until I decided, you know what, I'm coming to the United States for that mission, and then
Yeah.
the rest is history.
Wow. And then at what point? So you became a Christian. You went after that stint in America. You went back to Egypt. At what point?
I did not. I end up not going back.
Oh, so then
And
you just get your family here? Was your whole family already with you when you came
they
here?
were coming with me, and
Yeah.
I'm a physician, so
Yeah.
it's the reason, one of the things is I start facing a real problems with the Muslim community. So I picked up the Midwest because I thought that, if I come to the Midwest, I'm not going to have the same Islamists or the Islamic
Yeah.
people around like I had in England.
Yeah.
But you plan, but God has better plans. So, I start facing real problems with the Muslim physicians
Yeah.
and people, even in the Midwest, that created so many problems for me.
Wow.
And even back home. And it's a long journey. There is a second book coming in to detail this situation, because actually, what I faced when I came to the United States back 20 something years ago is very relevant to understand the time that we live in today, with the rise of Islamists and rise of Islam and all of that stuff.
Yep.
And how that looks like in Europe. Because, many Americans do not understand that there is two different kind of way to look at Islam. The Muslims among themselves, and then the way they talk with each other, and the way they would talk to me, for example, is completely different from the way and the face that you get.
Yes.
And this is very hard to understand, for somebody who lives in the Midwest, or living in the United States, or living in the West in general. The mindset of Muslim world is different from the mindset of the West.
Yeah.
And I know both. I live both.
Mhm.
I've lived as a United States citizen and the United States culture and Christian,
Yeah.
but I still understand very well how the other side looks and says things.
So let's talk about that. The politics kind of Muslim ideology. One thing that I've always so I've read not the whole Quran, but a lot of the Quran. And I mean, you can't walk away from that book not thinking that to be a Muslim there's some sort of inherent violence connected to the Muslim faith. Jihad, some of those practices, how to even, as simple as how are you even allowed to treat your wife, stuff like that. How and then to your point too, there's definitely this kind of westernized Muslim here in the States versus the kind of Muslim you'd find in the Middle East. How do you frame kind of the true ideology of what it means to be a Muslim?
It's a great question, and it breaks my heart that actually 25 years after 9/11, we still have the same mindset about how Islam looks like and so forth. Islam is not a violent religion; it's a very disciplined mindset religion, and this is two different things. So, because most of the people in the West was introduced to Islam through the actions of 9/11, they still look at Islam as a gangs of people who are out there to kill you. But this is not the reality of it. The reality is Islam is a religion that is based on discipline and very hard work. And there is a hierarchy of people, the government and the government of Islam, the law of Islam, the head of the family, the men over women and so forth. So there is always one above other, and there is always obedience that is included in it. The part that you are talking about, jihad, is absolutely is an intrinsic part of Islam, because Islam is a nation. Islam is an ummah, which is it's a political movement within religion. And in any kind of an empire or building a movement like that, or a state or a kingdom, you have to have a military forces to expand its reach, and also to protect its borders. And this is how Islam altogether. So if you look at it, you feel like you are looking at a kingdom, okay, that has a military forces, that has an hierarchy. Everybody is disciplined. There is hierarchy, and all of that stuff. Make sense?
Yeah.
So for Islam to spread, the military part was a very important part of it.
Mhm.
So what you have seen in 9/11 is not people thirsty for blood or trying to kill people, even though this is exactly the outcome of it.
Yep.
But this is a group of people that is trying to expand Islam,
Okay.
which makes no sense. This is again going back to the mindset in the West. It makes no sense to Christians. It makes sense to United States, but this is the way that the Islam thinks, that
Mhm.
they expand by launching an attack and then following that with what's called civilization jihad. Because in Christianity in the United States, we understand that to bring somebody to church or to Christianity or to let them know about Jesus, we invite them over donuts, coffee,
Yep.
have a lunch
Mhm.
together, share
Mhm.
the gospel, talk about Jesus reaching out to ask for forgiveness, and then all of a sudden you find people that is gonna chop your head,
Yeah.
so the rest of the people will be scared into believing it. It makes no sense. But here is the thing that I want you to pay attention to, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Since 9/11, even though that was a crazy idea for Christians, as a matter of fact, Islam succeeded. Very big
Okay.
in the United States.
Okay.
The number of Muslims increased in the United States by threefold. The number of mosques increased by more than fourfold.
Why?
Because the discussion that we are having is still going on, because
Yeah.
this is how Islam functions, because this is how Islam have been doing it for 1400 years. Launch an attack, followed by civilization jihad, have a discussion that is based on nothing, deception and so forth, and people believe in. We are open our doors for immigration. We are open our doors. Where in the world that you can have a city like New York that is attacked by the most heinous attack in human history,
Yeah.
by 3,000 people killed, and then all of a sudden they have, number one, the very first president that was elected in the United States has Muslim background.
Yeah.
Where you find that, right?
Yeah.
And then also you have a mayor that is elected as the mayor of the city
Right.
that has been attacked on 9/11.
Ma'am Donnie.
You ask
Yep.
you ask yourself why. There is many ways I can tell you why, but it's multi-factors. It includes the methods of Islam from the very beginning, and also it talks about it. It also is we're going to have to delve into the weakness of the church and the weakness
Yeah.
of the culture and the
Yeah.
intimidation of money and many other things, and
Yeah.
the culture that is decay, and many other options and many other reasons that existed since the beginning.
Yeah.
And this is why Islam spreads. This is how Islam is spread in every country. I told you earlier, I asked myself, how a Muhammad, a false prophet, which he is a false prophet, 100% false prophet. I'm not saying this lightly, and I know how much that is a very big statement, but he is a false prophet.
Yeah.
How on earth you find a false prophet has 1.6 billion people believing in him? Where on earth you can find a guy in the middle of the desert come out and say, you know what, I'm a prophet, I talk to God and he whispers in my ears,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden, you have empires falling apart and so forth. Because the decay of the word, because the problem of the word itself, then you have somebody like this becoming who is, and the conquest of Islam, the method they have been doing it. Muslims have never been, they take over leadership, and then they intimidate with their power, money, political discipline, and all of that stuff. And this is exactly what's happening today. Let me make no mistake. When you look at the amount of investment that the Arab world is right now throwing at the United States, you're talking about $12 trillion.
Wow.
Don't you think this will bring, well, yeah, Saudi Arabia, Emirates, Qatar, all of them, and Trump was touting, I brought back to the United States $12 trillion. Where did he bring it back? Bring it from the Middle East. What is the Middle East? He bring it from Israel? No, he brought it from the Muslim countries.
Mhm.
When those people are going to invest in AI, in infrastructure, in intelligence, and in all of that stuff, don't you think this is going to bring a lot of people to Islam? It's absolutely will.
Yeah.
Look at the best player, football player, soccer player in the world, when he's right now got the status of an ambassador with the Saudis and coming to the White House, and the President Trump, praising him.
Yeah.
He's going to convert to Islam very soon, by the way. He's going to announce his conversion to Islam very soon. Very soon, I'm talking about Ronaldo.
Yeah.
So when this is how Islam spread.
So I want to revisit that in a different angle here. So
Please.
I guess it's. I understand what you're arguing, and I think you're right.
I hope so.
Yeah. But what you just said was that since 9/11, Muslim influence in America has grown, and including immigration. It's a little shocking given the fact that, like, they just killed 3,000 of our people, and And was that signaling? Do you think that also signaled to Muslims, hey, we just killed 3,000, we just took down these planes, Twin Towers, etc. America's open for business, come in. Did it like signal something? Was it a big statement for Muslims? Do you understand what I'm saying there?
Yes, and no. It was not a big signal or anything like this. United States, see, Islam from the very beginning always gravitates towards power and to try to bring that power down to take its place. That happened during Muhammad. He looked at the Romans and
That's
the
right.
Persians.
Yep.
So the United States has been like a temptation and the West for the Muslim world for so long.
Yeah.
It is our own policies that opened that door. So, you have, President Obama come into office and he changed our policies. He did not like having people coming from the South. So he was the deportation in chief. He deported a lot of people out of the United States to Mexico.
Yeah.
But at the same time, he opened the floodgates. You have to remember there was the Arab Spring where he was trying to get the Muslim Brotherhood ruling the Middle East and created a chaos.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, he's opened the floodgates for the Yemeni to come into New York, the Somali to come into Minnesota, and he have resettlement for them. You look at Syrians coming into Europe and coming into the United States. So the policies that we did is the one, it's opened the flood doors. People were waiting, and as soon as we open, they are in. So when you're talking about the Muslim community in the United States, number of Muslims before 9/11 was less than 2 million.
Yeah.
And now we are talking about 6 million and projected to be reaching 10 million in 10 years. Then you're talking about increase in what, 5-folds, 6-folds? That increase was people waiting at the door, and you open the door and people rushed in. When you look at the southern border where 11 million people crossed, don't make no mistake that the 11 million come in, they are not coming, all of them, from Mexico and Venezuela.
Yeah.
There is a lot of people coming from the Middle East as well through the southern border, 11 million. Otherwise you would have emptied Mexico by now, but it's not. You're getting people from other countries coming in the United States. And again, the problem that we are looking at is, hey, we are looking at the bad Muslims with the guns that they were on planes and killing us. The fact of the matter, the Muslims that I'm talking about over here in the United States, they are scientists, they are physicians, they are lawyers, they are entrepreneurs. Mohammed bin Salman is not coming in with hiding a gun behind his back to kill Trump. He's coming in with $1 trillion to invest in the United States in his last visit.
Wow.
So this is how Islam is spread through what is called civilization jihad. While we are looking at the violence, they are working through diplomacy and regular channels to take over.
So how do we handle locations like Dearborn? I don't even know how why did Dearborn become such a landing ground for Muslims, and then how as Christians and as countrymen handle Dearborn?
Well, when you say handle Dearborn, what is it that you want to handle there?
Yeah, I mean,
Dearborn is a Muslim concentrated area.
That's correct.
Mostly Shiite Muslims coming also from Yemen, which is the majority, like a lot of Yemenis also exist in New York.
Yep.
And they built like big Islamic mosques over there. And this is part of how Michigan itself as a state became a very big Muslim kind of concentrated state.
Wow.
So what is the problem that you want to fix? So I can answer the question, because we say why is it a problem in your opinion?
As a Christian American, I feel like it's an invasion, in the sense that we were once a very Christian country, and now because of some of our policies that you've already pointed out, we're allowing other nations and religions to come in to change our culture and our religion. And as a Christian American, I don't want our nation going that direction.
Okay, so whose fault is that?
Well, it's definitely our fault in terms of the policies and incentives that we've created in our systems. Absolutely.
So I'm sorry, I'm going to ask you questions like playing the
Please.
devil advocate over here. Okay?
Please.
Okay, so you open the door for Muslim, to come in and settle them in Michigan and increasing it and Dearborn and so forth.
Yes.
So what do you expect from them to do? If you open the door for Italians, are they going to change to become Germans?
No.
Okay, so they're Muslims coming to the United States.
Yeah.
You are the one who invited them. You provided them, like in Minneapolis. Let's talk about Minneapolis, Minnesota right now.
Yeah.
You know, you provide them with programs. President Obama, you know, God bless his heart, decided that he's going to resettle the people from Somalia, that immigrants from Somalia, and increase that number as well, by the way, and bring them, instead of being in Texas and Virginia and other, because Ilhan Omar, by the way, was living in Virginia, and others were in East Coast, were Texas, and so he decided that he's going to all move them, give them incentives through federal programs, so they can all move in one district, so they can be in paper, live with each other, help each other, be a better community for themselves, so they can have a better life in the United States. And then voila, they have Ilhan Omar and become like a Muslim enclave over there. You know, you said you have a problem. Who created the problem? Is the Somali created this problem? The Dearborn become a Muslim. What do you expect them to be? You are not reaching them with the love of Christ, and you don't have the argument to do so. And you know, you expect them to all of a sudden become Christian. They're not going to do that, because Italians going to be Germans, right?
Right.
So it is our problem that we are creating, and I apologize for breaking it that way, but I like you to tell it as is. Okay.
So that's my question is then, how do we fix it?
You know, the way that we fix it is very simple things. You know, we did not make the Italians Germans, but what we did in the United States in the past, we made the Italians and the Germans Americans.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So Obama as well started the idea that assimilating people in America is racist. So when people come to the United States, if you try to teach them the language, if you start doing things, then you're racist, because you are attacking their culture. Well, on whose expense? I came to the United States. I have to change my way. One of the things that changed my ways, I did love to drive very fast with cars. Okay, I did. But when I came to the United States, I did not get one ticket since I came to the United States. You know why? Because I have to abide with the law over here. It's part of my assimilation in the United States. You know, before I take advantage of this great land and what it has to offer me with freedoms to practice my own faith as a Christian, I also have to give back and to try to fight for this nation and to abide by its laws. But when you have a president that made it clear within the Department of Homeland Security that it is illegal, it is wrong to assimilate, this is the problem. So I think the first step that we need to do is to make everybody in America assimilate into becoming American citizens if they have the right to be here. If they do not, then we put them in the line to leave or to give them the choice and leave and so forth. This is an immigration policies that you have to deal with. But assimilating Dearborn into making it an American city is crucial for solving the problem that you're talking about. And actually becoming assimilated and not letting them enclaves and not hating on them, by the way. Here is something that I talk about quite often. You know, hating on the other is not a winning strategy. You know what Jesus taught us? That you love your neighbor and also you love your enemy and your adversaries. And it is not, by the way, in a Christian faith, those are not a submissive or losing strategies. Those are winning strategies, because you never win a fight by yelling at somebody. You know, imagine if you have a dispute with your friend or dispute with a brother, do you think you're going to be shouting at each other will solve the problem? Yelling at each other, hating each other? No. When you sit down and talk, this is when things start happening. So as a matter of fact, start hating on Dearborn is not going to solve the problem, but understanding that this is the group of people who lives in the United States but has nothing to do with the United States. They live as if this is their own country, separate from the United States. So we have to start. I didn't mean when you love them, you compromise. You keep I'm very clear that you do not go and compromise your American values, your Christian values in your loving. You're loving because you want to make a difference and a change. As a Christian who would love his enemy or adversary, this is what we need to do over there. This is the very first step. And then try to figure out how we can make this enclave, whether it is Minnesota, whether it is New York right now with the big Yemeni, you know, and Islamic things that voted for Mdani, or Michigan, or by the way, right now, the most attractive places for Muslims to come to the United States is not even Michigan, as you can imagine, but it's actually Texas and all over the country. But Texas is a big place for Muslims to go. If we continue thinking about Dearborn or hating or all that, it's not going to solve the problem. We have to start the first step. We made the Irish and the English and the Germans and the Italians Americans. It's about time to make Muslims Americans, not making them and forcing them, but telling them, this is how we run our system. This is what our country is. This is our constitution. This is our ideas. This is what the freedom of speech. Before you own a gun, you have to give rights to this country. And by that, we can be a community of Americans. And then we can be open to door for, hey, we can reach out to them with the love of Christ, and things will change dramatically. And another point is, Muslims feed on the hatred. Okay.
Yes.
Feed on the hatred. And part of the Islamic ideology that everybody hate them for their faith. Okay.
Right.
So when we are angry and calling them and doing all that stuff, we are feeding in the same narrative and making them even more enclave, more separated, more animosity in the United States. So hatred is not going to solve the problem whatsoever, or anger. It's about time to understand that we are in a clash of civilization like no tomorrow, and we are fighting for the very soul of America. And actually, we are fighting for the kingdom of heaven, for Christ. When we are doing this, I'm not fighting with the sword. I'm not a crusade over here, but I'm talking about a real battle between ideas. And it's about time to solve the problem by making a winning strategy.
Yeah. So we got a couple minutes left here. I just want to end here and just kind of talk about basic witnessing. How do Christians witness to Muslims?
Ask questions.
Ask questions.
Ask questions. Number one is,
please.
Muslims have no assurance of heaven. Muhammad himself said that. Muhammad, the founder of Islam, said that. They have no assurance of heaven. So ask them about, are they going to be actually going to heaven if they are added to Islam, if there is any proof of that. And number two, ask him questions as if you are completely naive, and ask him, there is any proof that Muhammad is a legitimate prophet? You know, we know about Jesus, when people questioned him, he did miracles. What miracles did Muhammad do? And then ask him about when people question Muhammad if he's a legitimate prophet, what did he do? We know that Jesus, when he resurrected, and Thomas asked him, he opened his arm and tell him, put your hand in my wound. What did Muhammad do to prove his prophethood? Ask questions in a very naive way, like, I have no idea. I'm very interested in Islam. I don't know. Can you tell me if I want to follow Muhammad, but I don't know if he's legitimate or not. Before I commit my life and change my life, I want to know, because all of those are huge, big holes in the religion of Islam. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So ask questions, wait for answers, come with more questions. I have a lot of things. I'm not trying to boost my book, but I am in a way.
Yeah.
If you read my book, I actually went into details of my argument against Islam. But by the way, when I was finding things, I was horrified, because I don't want to find those stuff. Okay. So I'm mentioning them so people can use those as tools in their hands when they ask him questions. This is the first thing. And then the second, after that, you have to put holes in the lie, and then come up with the truth about Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Know your faith, know your Bible, know what you believe in, and then share it from a place of real conviction and real belief. Know your place in heaven. Those are very important things.
Yeah.
And again, I do not separate politics from religion. I'm guilty of that.
Yeah.
So when it comes to America, when you have people here in the United States, you need to start believing in your country. Stop the self-loathing that exists in the United States. Stop the hatred of the United States that you have. There is many people who have apologetic. This is a great nation. It has mistakes, but it's a great nation. And you know what? The Muslims and the people who immigrated to the United States know that very well, because they know the mistakes. When you say stuff about the United States is bad, they look at you like, you know what? Yeah, they will agree with you, because they want to see, like, upper hand on you. But they know that this is a great country. Otherwise, they are not here. So stop the self-loathing and believe in your country and the ideals of it. And we are the only nation on earth that ever existed that, when it has problems, it solved its own problems without a complete overhaul of the system. Even though we have the Civil War at some point in our history, but otherwise we solved a lot of problem by civil rights movements, by movements that created by the people for the people, later on changed the country that we have in right now. We still have mistakes, and we will fix them in the future.
Off the top of your head, what are some Bible verses you've been found effective in witnessing to Muslims?
That's a very good question. I think Muslims actually in some places right now repeat those as memes of God will never give you a challenge more than you can handle. The ideas of God has a plan for you. You know, all of us are struggling. All of us, Christians, Muslims, Jews, Buddhists, everybody. And when you understand that you have a loving God, is the best friend and the best person that you can have. So use those verses that talks about that God is by your side, that He will answer your prayers, that He's loving you. Because actually, Muhammad borrowed some of those, or Muslims later on borrowed some of those. You point those that those are original in the Bible, because the Bible surpassed Islam.
Yeah.
So the verses of the kindness in God's heart and all of that stuff is very important.
Mark, where do you want people to find your book? Do you have social media? Where do you want people to follow you?
They can go to our website, Global Faith Institute, and look at our materials and all of that stuff. They can go to Amazon and get a copy of the book. It's the name over there. Thank you for putting it on the screen. They go to our Facebook, Mark Christian or Global Faith. We have multiple websites, and we're about to start a podcast as well. So we can compete with you, okay?
Please. We need more Christian podcasts.
Yeah, so we're gonna start a podcast very soon. It's called Different Perspective.
Yeah.
We mix religion and politics. So again, simple. Go to Global Faith. You can have everything you need. Go to Amazon to buy the book and follow us and support us. We'd appreciate that so much.
Great, thank you, Dr. Mark. Stay on the line afterwards. I got some things I want to run by you real quick, but go to Amazon. His book is The Apostate. Dr. Mark Christian, The Apostate. Go check it out. Go read it. I enjoyed going through it, and I hope you guys will too. I found it very helpful and everything. And so thank you guys for joining Crosspolitic One-on-One with me. I hope you guys have a Merry Christmas. This will definitely be dropping for Christmas. You'll be here there. So and then after that, we'll be in the new year in January. New Year's shows. We got a great calendar coming up for you. Very excited. For if this show drops before then, we'll be at AmFest in Phoenix, Arizona. Reach out to us if you guys want to meet up there at AmFest. Email me, waterboy@crosspolitic.com. So thank you so much for joining the show. Hope you guys enjoyed this interview with Dr. Mark Christian. See you next time.